The courthouse envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. I'd been staring at it for 20 minutes, my coffee going cold in my hand. Austin Flores, that's me, 34 years old, divorced for 2 years, and apparently still not free from the chaos that was my marriage to Vanessa. I ripped it open. The words blurred together at first, then crystallized into something that made my blood run cold: petition for post-divorce asset distribution regarding inherited funds. What the hell? I said aloud to my empty apartment. My phone buzzed. It was my boy Dominic. Yo, Mark, you good? Haven't heard from you since your pop's funeral last month. I wasn't good. Dad had passed suddenly from a heart attack, leaving me his life savings, $235,000. Money he'd scraped together working double shifts at the auto plant for 40 years. Money he'd specifically left to me because Vanessa had torn our family apart. Dominic, man, Vanessa's suing me. For what? Y'all been divorced. She wants half of Dad's inheritance. Says she deserves compensation for the years she supported me. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, supported you? Bro, you worked 70-hour weeks while she sat home complaining about your mama's cooking. That was the truth. But Vanessa always had a way of rewriting history. The letter claimed she'd sacrificed her career aspirations, provided emotional support during my education, and deserved financial recognition for her contributions to my success. My success? I was a warehouse supervisor, not a CEO. And her career aspirations? She'd quit every job after 3 months because the manager didn't respect her vision. I crumpled the letter. This was war. If you believe ex-spouses shouldn't get inheritance money, hit that subscribe button. Only greedy manipulators would skip this. I met Vanessa Richardson 6 years ago at my cousin Tasha's birthday party. She wore a red dress that hugged every curve, and her laugh filled the room like music. Back then, I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Confident, ambitious, full of life. You look like you could use some real conversation, she'd said, sliding next to me at the bar. We talked until 3 a.m. that night. She told me about her dream of opening a boutique, how she'd studied fashion merchandising at community college, how she wanted a partner who understood ambition. I told her about working my way up at Morrison Logistics, about wanting to make my father proud, about eventually starting my own business. I like a man with plans, she'd said, her hand on my arm. We were married 8 months later. Small ceremony, just family. Dad had pulled me aside that day. Son, I love you, but I'm not sure about this girl. Something feels off. I should have listened. The first year was decent. We laughed, made plans, dreamed together. But cracks started showing when I got promoted to supervisor. Suddenly, I wasn't home enough. I didn't appreciate her. I prioritized work over her needs. Your mama's always in our business, she'd snap during arguments. Mom had only asked if Vanessa needed help finding work after she quit her 3rd retail job. Vanessa took it as an insult, stopped coming to family dinners, and made me choose between keeping peace at home or maintaining my relationship with my parents. I chose wrong. I chose her. Now, sitting in my attorney's office, I realized how much I'd lost trying to keep her happy. My lawyer, Patricia Owens, was a sharp 50-year-old black woman with silver locks and zero tolerance for nonsense. Austin, tell me everything. Patricia listened without interrupting as I laid out my marriage to Vanessa. Her pen flew across her notepad, occasionally pausing when I mentioned something particularly damning. She worked maybe 18 months total during our 4-year marriage, I explained. Every job ended the same: drama with co-workers, disrespect from management, hours that didn't work for her lifestyle. And you supported her financially during this time. Completely. Rent, car note, her credit cards, everything. I was pulling in about $52,000 a year. Not rich, but stable. Vanessa spent like we made 6 figures. Patricia's eyebrow raised. Give me specifics. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old bank statements I'd kept. $300 hair appointments every 6 weeks. $200 brunches with her girls every weekend. She bought a $5,000 purse once because her friend Roxy had one. Did you authorize these purchases? I didn't even know about half of them until the credit card bills came. We'd fight, she'd cry, say she deserved nice things because being married to someone who worked all the time was hard. I'd feel guilty and drop it. Patricia shook her head. Classic financial manipulation. What about this claim that she supported your education? I laughed bitterly. I got my associate degree before we even met. She's talking about a 6-week logistics management certification I took online 2 years into our marriage. Cost $300. I studied after work while she watched reality TV. So her sacrifice was what? Not disrupting your study time. Apparently. And the emotional support she's claiming? Man, Patricia, she called me weak for crying at my grandmother's funeral. Said I needed to man up. Patricia's jaw tightened. We're going to destroy this claim, Austin. But I need to know, is there anything she could use against you? Any financial impropriety, infidelity, anything? Nothing. I was faithful, paid every bill on time, never hid money. Good. Because she's about to learn what real consequences look like. The preliminary hearing was 3 weeks away, but Vanessa's legal filing arrived like clockwork. A 50-page document painting me as a financial abuser who'd exploited her domestic labor and emotional support. I read it in Patricia's office, my anger rising with each paragraph. Listen to this, I said. She claims she managed our household, allowing me to focus on career advancement without domestic burden. Patricia, she couldn't boil water without burning it. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry on weekends because she said housework was beneath her. Patricia highlighted sections with yellow marker. She's also claiming she put her career on hold to support your ambitions. Says she had multiple job offers she declined to maintain household stability. Job offers? From who? She got fired from Target for arguing with customers. I stood up, pacing. And she's claiming emotional distress? She told me my dad was a bitter old man stuck in poverty mentality 3 days before he died. That memory still burned. Dad had called to invite us to Sunday dinner. Vanessa overheard and went off. I'm not spending my Sunday watching your mama judge me while your daddy lectures about hard work. He's been working 40 years and still broke. That's not inspiration, Austin, that's failure. I defended him, we'd fought for hours, and I'd gone to dinner alone. That was the last meal I shared with my father. He died the following Tuesday at his workstation, surrounded by strangers instead of family. Patricia touched my arm. Austin, breathe. This anger is valid, but we channel it productively. Her petition is built on lies, and lies have a way of unraveling in court. What's our strategy? We prove the truth. Bank records, employment history, witness testimony. Your mother, friends, co-workers, anyone who saw the real dynamics of your marriage. I nodded, but something nagged at me. Why now? She could have filed this immediately after Dad died. Why wait a month? Patricia's expression darkened. That's what concerns me too. She's planning something. Ex-spouses don't wait unless they're building a bigger case. The truth hit me like a freight train when I ran into Roxy Crawford at the grocery store. Vanessa's best friend, the one who'd encouraged every expensive purchase, every argument, every moment of chaos in my marriage. Austin, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I heard about the court thing. That's so messy. Something in her tone made me stop. You knew about it. Girl, Vanessa's been talking about this since your daddy got sick. She said if he left you anything, she deserved half because of all she put up with. My blood went cold. Since he got sick. Dad was only sick for 3 days before he died. Roxy's eyes widened, realizing her mistake. I mean, after. She talked about it after. No, you said since. Roxy, what did Vanessa know about my father's condition? She backed away, her shopping cart between us. I don't want no problems, Austin. Talk to Vanessa. But I didn't need to talk to Vanessa. I called my mom instead. Baby, what's wrong? Mom answered on the first ring. Did you tell anyone about Dad's heart problems? Before he died? Silence. Then, just the family. And, oh no. Oh, Austin, no. What? Vanessa called me about 2 months before your father passed. Said she wanted to reconcile, that the divorce had made her realize family was important. Asked about his health. I mentioned he'd been having chest pains but refused to see a doctor. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Vanessa had known Dad was sick. She'd known he had money saved. She'd waited, watching, planning. When he died suddenly without her in the picture, she'd crafted this entire legal strategy to get what she believed she was owed. Patricia needed to hear this immediately. She's been planning this for months, I told her an hour later. This wasn't a reactionary filing. She calculated it. Patricia's smile was sharp as a blade. Even better. Premeditation makes her look worse. Let's dig into who else she's been talking to. Patricia filed for full financial discovery, and what came back painted a picture I never expected. Vanessa hadn't been idle during our 2 years of divorce. She'd moved in with a man named Darius Anderson, a real estate investor who drove a BMW and wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent. Why would she need your inheritance if she's with this guy? Dominic asked when I showed him the photos from Vanessa's social media. We were at his place, reviewing documents Patricia had sent over. His wife Presley brought us coffee and peered over my shoulder. Because it's not about need, Presley said. It's about winning. She thinks she's owed something for the marriage not working out. The discovery also revealed Vanessa had consulted 3 different attorneys before filing. 2 had declined her case. The third, Bernard Mitchell, was known for aggressive litigation and didn't care much about ethics, only winning and his 50% contingency fee. Mitchell, Patricia said during our next meeting. I've dealt with him before. He takes cases other lawyers won't touch and throws everything at the wall to see what sticks. Expect them to file additional motions, try to drag this out, make it expensive enough that you'll settle. I'm not settling. This is my father's money, his legacy. She's not getting a dime. Good. Because I found something interesting. Patricia slid a document across her desk. Vanessa filed for bankruptcy 16 months ago. Discharged $48,000 in credit card debt. Guess when most of that debt was accumulated? I scanned the pages. During our marriage. Exactly. Debt she claimed was for household expenses. But look at the creditor list. Neiman Austin, Saks Fifth Avenue, luxury retailers. She was spending money you didn't have on things you didn't need, and she wants to claim she sacrificed. I felt vindicated and furious simultaneously. Can we use this? Absolutely. It shows a pattern of financial irresponsibility and contradicts her claim of being a supportive partner focused on household management. If she was managing the household, why was she bankrupting it? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Austin? It's Vanessa. We need to talk. My hand tightened around the phone. Patricia immediately leaned forward, mouthing speaker. I obliged. Vanessa, anything you want to say should go through our attorneys. Don't be like that, baby. This doesn't have to be ugly. I'm just asking for what's fair. Baby. She hadn't called me that since before the divorce. The manipulation was so transparent it was almost insulting. Fair. You want half of money my father left me. Money he earned while you were telling me he was a failure. I never said that. You're twisting my words like always. Look, I supported you through hard times. I was there when you were stressed about work, when your family was driving you crazy. That has value, Austin. Patricia scribbled on a notepad, keep her talking. What hard times specifically? I asked. What? All of them. When you were working those long hours, who was holding down the home? When you were dealing with your mama's passive-aggressive comments, who defended you? Vanessa, you started those conflicts with my mother. And holding down the home? You couldn't keep a job for 3 months straight. Her voice shifted, the sweetness evaporating. See, that's your problem. You never valued what I brought to the marriage because it wasn't a paycheck. My emotional labor, my support, my presence, that's worth something. The law agrees. The law says ex-spouses don't get inheritance money that came after divorce. Bernard says we have a strong case. He says courts recognize contributions that enabled career success. I enabled yours. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I was a warehouse supervisor, Vanessa. Same job before and after you. My salary increased exactly $7,000 in 4 years, standard raises. What career success? You had stability. You had someone in your corner. Now your daddy's dead, you got all that money, and you want to act like I'm some stranger? After everything. Everything? Like maxing out credit cards? Like quitting every job? Like isolating me from my family? That everything. The line went quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. You're going to regret this, Austin. I'm done being nice. See you in court. She hung up. Patricia was already typing notes. That was perfect, she said. She just contradicted her own filing. Vanessa's deposition was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in Patricia's conference room. I sat next to my attorney, watching my ex-wife walk in wearing a conservative navy dress and minimal makeup, a far cry from her usual glamorous presentation. She was playing the part of the wounded, struggling ex-wife. Bernard Mitchell followed her in, all expensive cologne and practiced smiles. He was a short man with a goatee and an attitude that screamed overcompensation. Let's keep this civil, he said, setting down his briefcase. Patricia smiled without warmth. Of course. Mrs. Flores. Ms. Richardson, Vanessa interrupted. I took back my maiden name. My apologies. Ms. Richardson, you've claimed in your filing that you provided substantial support to Mr. Flores during your marriage. Can you specify what form that support took? Vanessa folded her hands on the table. Emotional support, household management, being a partner when he needed one. Austin worked a lot, and I made sure he had a stable home to come back to. Household management. Can you elaborate? Did you handle finances? We both did. Patricia slid over bank statements. These records show Austin paid all household bills from his account. Your accounts show regular transfers from his checking to yours, averaging $1,200 monthly beyond bill payments. What were these funds for? Vanessa shifted. Personal expenses. Food, household items. These separate charges here, Whole Foods, Target, gas stations, those appear to be from Austin's card. So what were your personal expenses? Bernard interjected. Is there a question here, counselor? Yes. Ms. Richardson, what specifically did you purchase with the $14,400 Austin transferred to your personal account annually? I watched Vanessa's jaw tighten. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, watching her lies crumble under basic scrutiny. Clothing, self-care, things I needed. Being a wife requires maintenance. At $1,200 monthly. Beauty isn't cheap. Patricia didn't miss a beat. Let's discuss employment. Your filing states you sacrificed career opportunities. How many jobs did you hold during the marriage? I don't know exactly. Several. 7. You held 7 positions over 4 years. Average tenure, 2.3 months. Can you explain why? Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. The work environments were toxic. All 7. Yes. The deposition continued for 3 more hours, each question peeling back another layer of Vanessa's fabricated narrative. By the end, her sophisticated mask had completely slipped. She was the woman I remembered from our worst fights, defensive, aggressive, entitled. You're trying to make me look bad, she finally snapped after Patricia questioned her about the bankruptcy. I'm simply asking about documented financial history. You filed for bankruptcy 16 months post-divorce, discharging $48,000 in debt. The creditor list shows most debt was accumulated during your marriage to Austin. How does that align with your claim of household management? That debt was because Austin didn't give me enough to work with. I had to use credit cards for basic necessities. Patricia laid out credit card statements. These charges, $5,000 at Gucci, $3,000 at Louis Vuitton, $1,800 at a spa resort, these are necessities. Bernard tried to intervene. This line of questioning is harassing my client. This line of questioning is directly relevant to her claims. Ms. Richardson, you've stated Austin's inheritance should be partially yours due to your contributions to his success. Can you name one specific instance where your actions directly resulted in his career advancement? Vanessa stared at Patricia, fury building in her eyes. I was there. That's the contribution. Being present, being supportive. You called his father a failure 3 days before he died. Is that support? My heart pounded. Patricia had warned me she'd bring this up, but hearing it stated so plainly in that sterile conference room brought all the pain flooding back. Vanessa's eyes darted to me. That was a private conversation. That you initiated. That resulted in Austin attending his father's final Sunday dinner alone. The father who later died suddenly and left Austin the inheritance you now claim to deserve half of. How dare you? Vanessa stood up. You don't know what I went through in that marriage. Then enlighten us. What specifically did you go through? Vanessa looked at Bernard, who was shuffling papers nervously. She was spiraling, and everyone in the room could see it. I gave him 4 years of my life. I could have been with someone who appreciated me, who gave me the life I deserved. But you are with someone now, correct? Darius Anderson. Vanessa froze. Patricia had done her homework on Darius Anderson, and what she'd uncovered was explosive. Turns out, Darius wasn't just Vanessa's new boyfriend, he was Bernard Mitchell's former college roommate and current business partner in a property investment LLC. This is a conflict of interest, Patricia explained in her office after the deposition. Darius Anderson and Bernard Mitchell jointly own 4 rental properties in Atlanta. Mitchell's been letting Darius and Vanessa live in one rent-free while pursuing your inheritance. If they win, the contingency fee goes to Mitchell, and Vanessa's share likely gets invested in their properties. This isn't about compensation, it's a business venture. I sat back, stunned. They're using the court system to fund their real estate portfolio. Essentially. And it gets better. I hired an investigator to dig into their relationship timeline. Vanessa and Darius started dating 7 months before your divorce was finalized. While she was still legally your wife. The betrayal shouldn't have surprised me. Our marriage had been dead long before the papers were signed, but this felt different. This was calculated, coordinated fraud. Can we prove it? Patricia smiled. Social media is a beautiful thing when people are careless. Look at this. She pulled up Facebook photos, Vanessa and Darius at a restaurant, tagged 11 months ago. Vanessa and Darius at a basketball game, 10 months ago. Dates that fell squarely within our legal marriage. We file a motion to disqualify Bernard based on conflict of interest, and we amend our response to include evidence of adultery. In this state, infidelity can impact post-divorce asset claims, especially when the faithful spouse is contesting. Do it, I said. I'm done playing nice. She wanted war. She's got it. But that evening, my mom called with news that complicated everything. Austin, baby, I need to tell you something about your father's money. There's more to the inheritance than you know. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, more? Your father, he didn't just leave you his savings. There's a life insurance policy. $500,000. He bought it 15 years ago, named you beneficiary. The company just contacted me. They found the policy during their database audit. $735,000 total. Vanessa had sued for half of $235,000. She had no idea about the insurance money. Does anyone else know? I asked. Just me and the insurance company. They'll issue the check within 30 days. I needed to tell Patricia immediately. This changed everything. The preliminary hearing arrived like a storm. Judge Sandra Peterman presided, a black woman in her 60s with a reputation for no-nonsense justice. The courtroom was small, just both legal teams and a court reporter. Bernard stood, confident and loud. Your Honor, Ms. Richardson seeks equitable distribution of marital assets that were concealed during divorce proceedings. Mr. Flores inherited substantial funds from his deceased father, funds that represent compensation for labor performed during the time of their marriage. Ms. Richardson's contributions enabled. Counselor, Judge Peterman interrupted. This inheritance occurred 2 years post-divorce. On what legal grounds are you claiming entitlement? Compensatory claims, Your Honor. The marriage provided stability that enabled Mr. Flores to maintain employment and family relationships, ultimately benefiting from his father's estate. Ms. Richardson seeks recognition of her contribution. Patricia stood. Your Honor, this claim is frivolous on its face. Inheritance received after divorce is not marital property under state law. Additionally, evidence shows Ms. Richardson's relationship with Mr. Flores's father was hostile. She actively discouraged family contact and disparaged the deceased. Seeking proceeds from an estate she helped alienate is not only legally baseless but morally reprehensible. Strong words, Ms. Owens. Supported by strong evidence, Your Honor. Furthermore, we've discovered that Ms. Richardson's attorney has undisclosed conflicts of interest that compromise this proceeding. Bernard's face reddened. That's a serious accusation. That I can prove. Patricia presented documents. Mr. Mitchell and Ms. Richardson's current romantic partner, Darius Anderson, are business partners. They jointly own multiple properties. This litigation appears designed to fund their investment portfolio through exploitation of inheritance law. We move to dismiss and request sanctions. Judge Peterman examined the documents silently. The courtroom was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Mr. Mitchell, is this accurate? Darius Anderson is an old friend, Your Honor. That doesn't constitute. It constitutes poor judgment at minimum. Ms. Owens, I'm inclined to agree this claim lacks merit, but I'll review the complete filing before dismissing. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. As we left the courtroom, Vanessa grabbed my arm in the hallway. Austin, please. I need this money. Darius and I are starting a business. You don't need all of it. I pulled away. You've got some nerve. The final hearing was set for late November, but Vanessa wasn't done fighting. She filed an emergency motion claiming financial hardship and requesting immediate partial distribution of $20,000. Patricia called me at work. She's desperate. The judge denied the conflict motion technically, said it was improper but not illegal, but warned Bernard she's watching him closely. Now they're trying to get something, anything, before the case gets dismissed. What do? We show up and finish this. The courtroom was more crowded this time. My mother came, along with Dominic and Presley. Vanessa brought Roxy and Darius, who sat in the back looking uncomfortable. Judge Peterman entered, and we all stood. She got straight to business. Ms. Richardson, I've reviewed all materials submitted. Your emergency motion claims financial hardship necessitating immediate relief. However, your financial disclosure shows you're employed at a boutique earning $32,000 annually. You live rent-free in property owned by Mr. Anderson, and you drive a vehicle registered in Mr. Anderson's name. Explain this hardship. Vanessa stood. Your Honor, that income barely covers my expenses. I have debt from my previous marriage. Debt you incurred through luxury purchases and subsequently discharged through bankruptcy. That's not Mr. Flores's responsibility. But I contributed to building the foundation that led to his inheritance. If I hadn't been there, supporting him, he might not have had the relationship with his father that. That's enough. Judge Peterman's voice cut through the courtroom like a gavel. Ms. Richardson, I've practiced law for 38 years. I've seen many baseless claims, but this is among the most egregious. You contributed nothing to this inheritance. In fact, evidence shows you actively damaged Mr. Flores's relationship with his father. You're here because you see money you believe you're entitled to simply because you were once married to the recipient. That's not how inheritance law works. This petition is dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Flores, you're awarded attorney fees. We're done here. The gavel struck. It was over. Vanessa stood frozen, disbelief written across her face. Bernard was already packing his briefcase, avoiding eye contact. As I walked out, Vanessa's voice echoed behind me. This isn't fair. I deserve something. I didn't look back. If you believe people like Vanessa shouldn't profit from their toxic behavior, comment everyone deserves respect below. Only manipulators and gold diggers would stay silent. 6 months later, I stood in the office of Flores Logistic Solutions, my company, built with a portion of Dad's inheritance. The rest was invested, earning interest, securing my future the way he'd always wanted. My phone rang. It was Mom. Baby, you sitting down? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Vanessa called me today. She wanted me to convince you to help her. Apparently, Darius left her, took all his assets and moved to Florida with another woman. She's broke, evicted, asking if you'd consider lending her money for old time's sake. I laughed. Genuinely laughed. Not from cruelty, but from the sheer audacity. What did you tell her? I told her my son doesn't reward toxic behavior. Then I hung up. Good. After we disconnected, I walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor. 15 employees worked below, people I'd hired, people whose families depended on paychecks I provided. Dad would have been proud. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Boss man, we got that contract with Morrison. Your old employer wants to use us for their overflow freight. Seriously? Seriously? You've come a long way from where Vanessa tried to drag you. He was right. The court battle had cost me $23,000 in legal fees, but I'd won something more valuable than money. I'd won my dignity back. I'd proven that standing up to manipulation wasn't cruel, it was necessary. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You could have helped me, Austin. This is who you really are. I blocked the number without responding. Vanessa's problems weren't mine anymore. They never should have been. That evening, I visited Dad's grave. Fresh flowers sat on the headstone, Mom's weekly ritual. We won, Dad, I said quietly. The money's safe. The company's growing. You built something that lasted, and I'm making sure it counts. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. I stayed until sunset, feeling peace I hadn't felt in years. Some battles choose you. Some ex-spouses can't let go. Some people believe they're owed the world simply for existing. But justice, real justice, recognizes truth over entitlement. Vanessa taught me that boundaries aren't mean, they're essential. That saying no to manipulation isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. That walking away from toxicity isn't weakness, it's strength. I left the cemetery and drove toward my future, carrying Dad's legacy not just in dollars, but in the lesson he'd lived every day. Work hard, stand firm, and never let anyone make you feel small for protecting what's rightfully yours. The inheritance wasn't just money. It was freedom. And I was finally free. If you can't stand people like Vanessa who try to profit from other people's grief, hit subscribe, only toxic manipulators won't. Comment justice prevailed, if you believe in protecting what's rightfully yours from greedy ex-spouses.